Hey, welcome to Everyday Jesus. My name is Derek. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. I want to read a passage from Jesus' ministry in Matthew. It's kind of after a section that he's arguing and talking to some of the people there that are kind of giving him some grief, and it's kind of frustrating for him. But so then he says. It says, "At that time Jesus declared, 'I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and understanding and revealed them to the little children. Yes, Father, for such was your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom he chooses to reveal him, or to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." There's, again, so much that we could unpack there. We're not going to be able to get to it all today. But I want to hit on that last part. He says, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Come, take my yoke upon me and learn from me, for I'm gentle and lowly in heart." You know, so often when we think about being a Christian or following Jesus, you know, we can have this dichotomy. Do we do things? Do we try? Do we put effort? Or is that kind of somehow trying to earn favor from the Lord? Or you know, on the flip side, sometimes we can get too busy and too burdened with things that we have to do. You know, often I talk about how, you know, Jesus requires and wants fruit from us, but he never says how much, right? What's interesting to me here is that he says, "Take my yoke upon you." He doesn't say, "I'm going to take the yoke off of you, and therefore you're free." He says, "Take my yoke upon you, my work, my burden." He says, "And I'll give you rest." And I think we see, as we see the work that Jesus does and the work that he calls us to be active. He calls us to be life-giving people in the way that he was. But that in and of itself is a life-giving thing. You know, it's amazing the way this works. Several times, in several points in this passage, Jesus is expressing that upside-down nature of his kingdom. You know, God revealing things to the lowly and to children, not always to the wise and the learned, because God cares for the humble too. And so we see in another way that works out. If we're doing the work of the Father, that work is a restful thing. You know, you probably, hopefully, have an experience of doing a task, and if you do it with you know, if you're a parent, or you surely have parents, but if they ever said to you, like, you know, do your job with joy, or try to enjoy it, make a game out of it. If we can find a way sometimes to do work and to find a way to enjoy it, we find that it's almost not work. If you're in a job that you love, you probably don't feel all the time like it's work. Probably is a joy to you to do. And I think that's what the Lord wants for us. You know, the work that Jesus did. Imagine being Jesus. I mean, not to be heretical or crazy, but imagine the things that he was doing, that he got to do. He got to heal the sick. He was teaching people new life-giving truth. Can you imagine how much joy and life that gave him? It was a struggle, yeah. People hated him for it, yes. They eventually killed him for it. But I can't help but think that it was life-giving for him. So I think there's a real way in which what Jesus is doing here is not saying, you're going to be completely unburdened and you don't have to do anything. Because he shows time and time again, he expects us, if we're his children, if we're participating in his kingdom, there's work for us to do. But I think we can tell if that work is becoming burdensome to us, maybe there's something we're getting backwards. Maybe there's something we're misunderstanding in a way that we're striving in ways that Jesus is not. Are we doing the work that he calls us to with meek and lowly hearts? That's a big question. You know, you might see a lot of people doing Christian work that you might question. I don't know if I see lowliness and humility there. Maybe that's something that person needs to address. But if we're taking that onto ourselves, if you're doing any kind of work that you think Jesus is calling you to, or just trying to serve and love people, that work should be a joy. And if it's not, maybe there's something in you that needs to change. Maybe you don't need to scrap the work. Maybe there's some work in you that needs to happen. So if that's you today, if you're striving for something, if you're working on a project or a thing, or trying to help or love your neighbor or your family member, if you find that burdensome, it's okay, it's natural, it's normal. But if Jesus is calling you to it, if he's providing that work for you and using you, if he's working through you in that, it should be and can be a joyful and life-giving thing. And that's not to say that you have to do everything that presents itself or that you can think of to do. There is a possibility to get overloaded. But I just want you to see today that the Lord will give you joy in work that he gives you. And that makes that work light and a joy to do. We're not called to just beat ourselves up with work and wear ourselves down and grind ourselves to nothing with work that we're called to do. We're not called to that. But we're also not called to just sit and live for our own pleasure and our own comfort. We are given work to do as his children and as his servants, as his friends. But that work can be and should be a joy for us, should be life-giving for us. And if it's not, maybe it's just a little ways away for you. So I just want you to work through that today. Look at the things that are wearing you down. Maybe they are things that you need to let go, but maybe there are also things that you need to ask the Lord, is this what you've given me? And if it is, please change my heart so that I can experience the joy that you have for me in it. He does not want to just cause suffering for you in serving him. There is real suffering in serving him, but not through the work that we're called to do. So wherever you are today, again, I just encourage you to look at that work that you have. Ask him for the strength to do it joyfully. And ask him too, maybe you're struggling and pursuing and pushing in something that is not from him, and you need to let it go, lay it down. That's okay too. If you're not following Jesus today, he says, come to me. I will give you rest. If you feel beaten down and burdened and just the weight of the world is heavy on you, he will give you rest. He will give you a lightness of knowing that you're his son or you're his daughter, and that whatever happens, he is with you and for you. And he wants to give you life in the work that you're called to. And he wants to lift that burden off of you and give you his that is light and that is life. And that's a lot to think about. But I encourage you, if you're feeling if you're feeling beat down, if you're feeling stressed out, if you're feeling just an oppressive weight of work and pressure, lay that at Jesus' feet. Tell him that today. And ask for relief. Ask for joy in the work, in the struggle. Ask for joy as you submit to him. And I think he will give it to you. I know he will. It may not be instantaneous, but he wants that for you. He has a work for you to do. He has ways that he wants to use you, in small ways and big ways, in the people next to you and the people far from you. He has ways that he wants to bring his life through you as he brings it in you. And that is an amazingly life-giving, light, easy burden. I just invite you into that today. Bless you with that, and I'll see you next time.